mass accelerates.
What do you mean
There's
by
no
in
way you can get
reality?
around mass accelerate
You're adding more words than we
in physical
agreed.
reality because
What does that mean?
this is physics.
No, you're just saying words now. You
I'm
have
just saying
to.
words.
We only need to talk about the reference
When we
frame. You're
drop
saying
something,
other
do you
words
have
that have
mass?
nothing to do with reference. There's nowhere in the description in physics of reference frames does it talk about physical reality. There's no
All right,
synonymous.
Zanick, in physical reality, do we have mass accelerating when we drop something?
What does that mean? What do you define physical
So you
reality?
don't even know what that means? Okay.
I, I don't know what
In
you mean by it.
reality, the reality we're in, you don't know what reality means?
Yeah, in physical reality, depending on the both. Would you agree that all reference frames are physical reality?
The things you see from them may not be physical reality, though. For
Really?
instance, yeah, the Coriolis effect. If you get on a roundabout and start twirling around super fast, and there's a plane flying in overhead, you think the plane's in physical reality is really turning in circles like that? Of course not.
Wow. Okay. Let me break it down
What
to a
you
real
mean?
simple example.
Wow.
Well, because you're making really very little sense. If I'm on an airplane, and I throw this cracker at you because you're snoring across from me next to the window. Did I throw the cracker at you? Did it hit you in the head? Did it come from me? Or if I'm looking at it from the ground, did it make a big parabolic path? Which what did it do? Hello?
I don't know, man. I'm busy, dude. I don't know what you're even
You're
doing
busy for
here.
this. This is life altering, mind blowing in technology here. We have to get this straightened out. Otherwise, we're doomed
I'm
as a
straight. I
species.
know. I'm straight, dude. I know when we drop something, mass accelerates. No questions
Well, like I
asked.
said,
Fast.
if you're on an
You don't
airplane
know.
and
You're doing word games and talking about
the
reference
word,
frames
no,
and
you the
shit.
one projection, Your Honor. Listen, I asked you if you had a cracker thrown at you by me on an airplane because you're snoring. Did the cracker go straight in reality, or with a little bit of a parabolic projectile path? Straight in the y-axis. Did it go straight to you in the y-axis?
I don't know, dude. Whatever. Yeah, sure.
Okay, good. Now, if I was looking at you from the ground and me, who was throwing the cracker at you, and Geo was on the ground looking, would he see the object go straight from the moment it left my hand to your moment it smashes on your forehead and cracks on your forehead?
Perspective doesn't dictate reality. It doesn't
That's
matter
not
what you
perspective. Again, more words.
Yeah,
You're
but
adding
isn't he
some words.
talking about reality here? And you're just saying like, oh yeah, if something happened where you couldn't even see it, what does it do?
No,
It's
reality.
not reality.
You're looking at
In
it in a
reality,
Things
you
you
couldn't even see it. You wouldn't know.
Yeah, things you see from different reference frames, you may not be seeing what's actually happening in reality because, like I said, if you jump on a merry-go-round and start spinning it around real fast and look up while there's a passenger jet flying above you or a passenger plane flying above you in a straight line, you're going to know that the plane is not actually going in little tiny circles. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not actually happening
little tiny circles. Why would the plane go little tiny
because
circles?
you're on a merry-go-round spinning above it, spinning below it.
Well,
You get on
you
the
added
merry-go-round, you look up at a plane, you start spinning on the merry-go-round, it's going to be doing circles.
right.
We know that's not actually happening though in physical reality. This reference frame thing is bullshit. You know the real frame.
I don't think anyone would agree that there's a real frame. All frames are valid. All of them exist in all circumstances. Everything exists in all
It's not
reference frames
valid. It's
simultaneously.
not valid, dude. We just got it done saying the plane going in little tiny circles is not valid. We know that's not actually happening. Not valid.
With respect to you on the merry-go-round spinning, it is valid.
It's not valid because we know that's not happening in reality. It's completely not valid if we're talking about reality.
Okay. So again, I go back to how we talked about this later. I understand and agree with your definition. So if we talk about reality being the inertial frame, okay, we've level set everything. We now understand each other and can communicate and speak the same language. So yes, the cracker goes straight because in reality it's in the plane and it went from my hand to your hand. Looking at it from the ground is not reality because I'm not
But
moving with you.
the cracker doesn't even have to go straight. The plane could have been doing loop-de-loops, and now the cracker didn't go straight.
Correct.
Dude, you're all mixed up. The reference frames got you all mixed up, dude. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, you made the plane do loop. I just said the plane was going straight at a constant speed, and you looked at it from the ground, stationary on the ground. What did the cracker do? Well, it took a curved path, which is reality. But because I now know your definition, and I agree with you, we'll now say that all things spoken about with the term physical reality means inertial. I mean, the real situation, the reality is inertial, and everything that's not inertial is not real.
Yeah, because the plane can only really be doing one vector, right? Is that all? How many vectors can you do in reality?
How many vectors?
Yeah, how many vectors can one?
At an instant over time? Many
an
vectors over time, but in an instant, only one vector, sure.
One vector, sure. Well, this would be over time, but
Then it's
still
multiple vectors. A plane doing a loop-to-loop
Hey,
is
what if it's going? What if it's
vectors
not doing
constantly
a loop de
changing.
loop?
Then its vector is still changing.
All right, whatever, dude.
I mean, we don't need to have a wordsmith game here. We just talk about what you actually mean. Somehow I thought you found something that really contradicts F equals ma. I don't know what that is. That's what I was asking about.
GR.
Because GR says that the object is inertial when it's dropped, even though it
Because
looks
they
like
say
it's
there's no
falling down.
force. Because they say
Right.
there's no force.
Well, you can measure that there was no force on the object. You can drop your phone with a
Okay,
G
fine.
spot.
Then F equals ma debunked.
For Newtonian mechanics, absolutely.
We're just talking about reality, dude.
Well, there's very many ways to describe reality. We have first guy was Newton, and after that was Einstein. And so, which one is right, or are they both right, or we both have things that are theories that have not yet been shown to be supported by enough evidence yet? F equals ma lasted a long time until GR came around, and then that kind of blew that up a little bit, right? They could still replicate it in Einsteinian terms and equations, and refine it and get it more accurate. But there was areas where it completely fell apart, like your example. Why does the object look like it accelerates to the ground if there's no forces acting on it? That doesn't make any sense. So therefore, F equals ma is blown up. For the theory. However, everything Newtonian still works with the object falling to the ground, even though it didn't have we don't know why it's falling. That's magic then, because there's not a force behind it. We can treat it as a force because it does accelerate and it does have an impact. And that impact is the rate of change of momentum, which is a force. And we measure that too.
What do you think physics does? We've got to give a broad, general definition of physics.
The predictive and descriptive understanding of the world around us. Of the
Would that be reality?
Yes.
Okay, so in reality, we either do or don't have a force. It can't be both. Would you agree with that?
In reality, what has a force?
Gio's done better defending this than any of you guys have over years. I've been pitching this for years, and Gio had the best
I
defense
didn't
in
hear what you
this.
said. You said
You got, at least he was being straightforward with me. You guys beat around the bush, do weird stuff.
no. At least I don't understand what you said. You said more time.
You're a
Repeat that
bush
last
beater.
statement.
You're a bush beater.
Repeat that statement again.
I said you are a bush beater.
No, about the forces.
Yeah, in reality, there either is or isn't a force when he drops on.
Well, in reality, it acts
We already know
as if
mass
there's
is
a force.
accelerating. We already know mass is accelerating in
Well, it has
reality
to
when he
be
drops on.
so F equals ma. There has to be a force behind it. Yes.
And GR says that this force is not there.
Right. As we look a little deeper, that tends to fall apart.
So one of them only one of those can be right if we're talking about reality.
No, one can work for most general explanations and tests because it still doesn't fall apart on any physical test. You can still, like I said, when the object hits the ground based on the acceleration, we're going to have an impact and a force and destruction and heat and noise and all these things that are going to be predicted will all happen based on F equals ma. But then when you look at the theory behind why it's falling, there should be a force, but there is no force. So it's more like magic. And that's why they started looking at GR. GR is the
The
explanation
sky
of
is magic for you.
magic.
The sky's magic. You guys
Why
been
is the sky,
telling us for years.
why is the sky
Yeah.
magic?
You guys been telling us for years. We think the
Why is
sky's magic, and you just said it was magic.
I think
Everything moves up there because it is magic. That's why
well,
everything moves
the reason
in the sky for you.
how things accelerate without a force is magic. And some
Yeah,
people
and that's how you have everything moving in their whole universe.
right,
Magic.
magic,
Right.
gravity,
I mean, you didn't have to
magic.
stab me with Irvin Johnson's needle or nothing.
Magic. And they call it magic gravity. And they understand how the magic works with clues that they've discovered. But they don't know for sure. That's why they call it a theory.
Is that why you call it magic?
I call it magic because you can call it whatever you want. Just a term that talks about this quote magical attraction, this pulling force. The pulling source with no source, of course.
Oh, did you hear they debunked the AU?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it's done, dude.
How do they debunk it?
The Australian Union, it's over.
How do they debunk it?
Okay, are you familiar with the guy who first measured the speed of light?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how he did it.
Mhm.
Obviously, the AU is involved in that.
Correct.
Right. So he was 75%. He only got 75%.
Right. It's his first pass at it.
Yeah, but except we do it now, and you know how there's this celestial theodolite, everyone's obsessed with occulting things now. Well, now they're occulting one of Jupiter's moons with Jupiter and using the AU and timing it and all that, and it debunked, like, to this day, it's used to get the same number that guy did.
You want it 75% off?
Go do it. Yeah, go do it right now on Stellarium. What is it called? Stellarium?
Delirium?
Yeah, go do it right now. I bet you get 75%
Oh, the distance or the speed of light?
of the 75% of the speed.
I don't know enough about the. I don't remember enough about that. The initial test. I know the result was off by quite a bit, and now that's much more refined. They can measure it incredibly accurately in places like LIGO or SLAC. We know it even with commonly involved consumer products. It's incredibly accurate to that same number within 99.9% of the predicted value based on even going through an atmosphere. Laser radars are an example of that. That's why they can tell you how fast you're going, and then they can back it up with this rate of change of distance over time. Allow some time to go by. How far did you go down to the millimeter? And it matches the laser. So we know that the tools we have today are very accurately measuring the speed of light. They're certainly not 75% off. That means like you get a speeding ticket, you're going 75 miles an hour. You can say, no, I'm going 45 because that's being debunked. Your laser gun is wrong.
No, he was 25% off, and it doesn't debunk the speed of light. It debunks the AU. I would agree. Speed of light, we're good. We're good. AU, not good. Definitely not good on AU.
How do they
And
determine? How do they determine the distance to Jupiter?
if the distance was correct, if all the distances were correct, you're saying they could just be off of the distance to Jupiter?
No. How do they determine the distance was off? I mean, how they determine what the distance was, and then how they determine it was off?
I don't think the distance to Jupiter matters. It may, I'm not sure.
How they determine the distance to the sun?
I don't know, dude. It's been changing all over the place all the time. If the
Well,
distance was right, though, if the
it
distance was right, if the distance to the sun was right, though, this number would be right.
was a
He got
factor of 10
credited.
off.
He got credited for being the first guy to measure the speed of light with this. So
So speed of light is true, is correct, but the distance is wrong. It was wrong since Eratosthenes measured, or Aristarchus. When Aristarchus measured it, he was off by a factor of 10. But as we got more and more precise instruments to measure the angles, we got as accurately we are with the size and the angles as we are with the reflection of radio waves from the sun. What I get confused on is the instantaneity of gravity. When gravitational waves are supposed to go at the speed of light, but gravity of something like this, if someone was to just evaporate, some of the things relating to gravity would be instantaneous.
When you say Aristarchus measured like the distance to the sun or whatever, didn't he really like just say it's this many Earth diameters? And isn't that based on if Earth is the size of Venus or something like that?
No, it's based on the moon, how far the moon is, and how much farther away the sun is compared to the moon to Earth. So
Well, then how would he know Earth diameters? I don't get it.
You don't need the Earth diameters. All you need to know is how far the moon is.
That's how he would tell people how far away it is. It's this many Earth diameters away.
He just said it was Aristarchus. Remember, he talked about it being 30 times farther away. than the moon, based on an
I don't
89
know.
point something degree angle.
When I read it, it says Aristarchus claimed the sun is more than 100 Earth diameters across and 11,000 Earth diameters distant.
His test was a simple trigonometric test. It took the moon being at half, a quarter moon, which looks like it's at half in view, with an angle of you to the moon to the sun being 90. So at the moon, it's 90. So at your feet to the sun, there's an 89.8 degree angle. That would make it, roughly 300 or 400 times farther away. That's what he initially found. Then he did more tests after that, but that was his initial revelation.
Oh, I got you. Like he made a right triangle between him and the moon and the sun.
Because it was half lit, so it had to be, if the moon was directly to the side of it, that would be a 90-degree angle, and you could, figure out where that half point was in a month, knowing that shadow is exactly half.
So you say he was off by a factor of 10, so he guessed 930,000 miles?
I think it was either 930. Well, it's 93 million, so what was it? What would be a tenth of that?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying like he guessed 930,000. If you times that by 10, it's 93 million. I don't know.
Right, something like that. I don't know exactly the number was, but I think it was about a factor of 10 off, or maybe 5 or 10 off, maybe more, maybe less. I'm not sure. It was way off though, based on the angle. If you can just do the trick, I just see the trick for you. What it was. I mean, if we do it by the exact number we get today, which is 89.85, 86, something like that, you get this 400 times. But if we do 89.2 or 0.1, it's like 50 times or 100 times. I mean, like a 50 or 30 to 50 times farther away. So a huge difference with a super small angle change, based on how accurate you can measure that angle.
Think it makes more sense to take that angle off a plumb and work that backwards?
What angle off a plumb?
Like if you're going to take a measurement of the, I know what you're saying is that because the moon is a quarter or half lit, that it's 90 degrees from the sun. But like if you were to take an elevation angle to something, would it make more sense to take it off a plumb?
That would only give you the GP of the object in the sky versus the surface of the Earth.
Well, check it out. Like, say something's at 45 degrees, angle of elevation. If you just take that, I mean, if you take that off a plumb, you would get 45. If you take it off of horizontal, you get 45. So
right.
if you went down to like 20, right? The thing is at 20 degrees, so it's close to the horizon. You could still take that off a plumb, get 80 degrees, and then just minus. You know what I'm saying?
But what does that get you though? I mean, you're just getting the position of a
It
GP.
seems more accurate because your plumbs are all over the joint. So I would go off plumb rather than horizontal. Because your plumbs are, you know what I mean? Like you got.
How do you find the horizontal via 90 degrees opposed to that line of plumb? That gives you horizontal. If you use the horizon, then you're in trouble.
What do you even need the horizontal? Why do you need the horizontal? Exactly. That's my point. That's my point, Zanick.
That's my line. You don't need a horizontal. You just need the vertical. Yeah, use a plumb. But I don't know how you're equating.
You see how I turned that one on you?
Yeah, I don't even. You're quick. I don't know why we're looking at plumb versus the elevation angle or the co-altitude angle, whatever you're trying to find there, with the sun or the moon. What is that going to get you? It's just going to get you to GP.
Yeah, the angle of elevation. Yeah.
Well, the angle of elevation is above horizontal. You get that by taking a
or
plumb.
below plumb.
Well, no, below plumb would give you the co-altitude angle. You have to subtract it by 90 to get the elevation angle.
Yeah, exactly. It would make more sense in my mind to do it off a plumb and then to subtract the 90.
To get the elevation angle?
Yeah, I like that method.
What would the elevation angle get you? What's that used for?
I don't know. And that celestial navigation? I don't know.
No, because everything works back to the co-altitude angle or the zenith angle. And the zenith angle or the co-altitude angle is the exact thing you're looking to find, so you can use it for celestial navigation and find out how far away you are from the object's GP. It's ground position.
Do you think it's a bold assumption to believe that when you look 90 degrees up, there's no refraction occurring there? Just to claim a GP, or you think that's legit?
Well, the object's not directly above you. If it's directly above you, there's zero refraction because it's not going through. There's no angle of incidence to any of the differential medium that's above you.
So then refraction just goes away. Period. Like there's none.
Yes.
Like even if you're wearing a pair of glasses, which the light has to refract through your glasses, there's none on the way to the glasses.
Well, no. If your glasses have a curve, then suddenly that angle through the glass is going to have a little bit of refraction. That's why your lens works on your eye. But if you're not losing glasses, there's no refraction. Only the refraction that Takes the object and focuses on your retina.
So what do you think's more accurate, taking an angle with like just a tube with no lens in it, or a tube with a lens in it?
Accurate for what?
It's for a GP. I want to look up at the star above my head, directly above me.
You're not looking at any kind of lens. You're just looking at it with a tube or something that can actually, a pointer that can find roughly the center of that lit object, whether it be the moon or the sun or a star.
Yeah, you think it's more accurate without a lens in there or with a lens in there?
Well, the lens is at the center. By definition, the center of the lens won't have any refraction. It's the edges that cause the refraction. The center point won't. Well,
I wear a pair of glasses. It's refracting the light, so it reaches the back of my eye more properly because my eyes are messed up, right?
Right.
So it doesn't matter where. I still got peripheral vision with contacts in, and it's good.
Yep. But the center point is not changing. That's a straight line to the retina. Everything else is going to be angled by refraction to the retina. So trying to think what you're saying about the elevation angle.
Yeah, so you're saying as long as the crosshairs are lined up directly on the center of the lens causes no refraction?
Right.
What's culmination errors?
Culmination error?
Yeah, what's culmination, I should say. Why are they correcting for it when they put a lens in it? And then when there's no lens in it, they don't have to correct for it.
Well, culmination is with your eye lens will focus, like with culminating a laser, it tends to focus the laser beam to a point at a distance, just like the light is culminated from the edges of your eye to the retina to give that image upside down in the back of your retina. But the center point still goes right through the lens, through your eye lens as well, and to the back center of the retina. Like if you had the optic nerve connecting the center of your eyeball, you would have a blind spot right in the center. Right?
Yeah, I hear you. That makes sense.
Instead, it's like somewhere in the lower third of your eye, of your vision, with that blind spot. In fact, how do we used to be able to test for that blind spot, right? I forgot how they did that. Now I forgot what the arguments even about. Well, I was doing the calculation for Aristarchus. So we got scientific.
Yeah, like you can't see your nose, but I think you can see it. Like I don't think that's deleting anything out, right?
No, just one little tiny spot where the blind spot is. I can see my nose. I close my eyes. It's blurry, but I can see it's there.
Don't do that for too long. Your eyes will get stuck like that.
89. 89 degrees. Tangent. Inverse.
I can't believe you're doing it this way, Zanick.
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Standing up for the future, man. What you doing, man? Why y'all coming here arguing like Jeremy gonna be wrong and shit, man? Come on, man.
I didn't argue with him about anything. I was just trying to understand what his point was.
It's the same stuff. What, Zanick? How about this? How about this? What would it take for there to be an absolute reference frame, Zanick? Like the biggest one.
Biggest one?
Yeah, the biggest one. Like the one where you know which ball is falling to what planet and stuff like that. Like,
that's not the point. When you study motion, it allows you to look at motion from different frames so you can observe it from a different perspective. Nothing wrong with it. It's not an error. It doesn't change anything. It just allows you to look at something from a different vantage point. Literally.
conceptualize though, like twin paradox. It's not a paradox. Stuff like this.
No.
If the speed of light changed depending on where you were, or like where you were in motion to a particular other reference frame, that would probably demonstrate an absolute reference frame.
I don't know why it would need to change. I feel what you're trying to say, but that would still, you still would have like, are you going to get to causality or something like that? I'm sorry.
No, that's not what I was trying to say. Like, if the speed of light was not absolute in all reference frames, if it was only a maximum in a certain one, if it changed when you moved, like when you were moving relative to that reference frame, that would probably demonstrate that there is some sort of absolute reference frame. But it does change. Like, no matter what direction you're pointing light, measuring the distance, no matter what way you're moving, it always moves at the speed of light.
First of all, supposedly, first of all. Second of all, the way I don't know if the phrase is I conserve this momentum, or the way that it stays that way in all reference frames, you get your color shift and you get these other effects, right? For it to like, it manifests in different ways, the way that it sustains the rule, right? Depending on the reference frame that you're looking at, right? Stop me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Right.
No, the way light changes depending on your state.
But it's very weird, right? Because if we were to kind of imagine like a little sandbox or fish tank in front of us, and we were to like send photons through that, like, you know how Jeremy and Zanick were just talking, and it seemed like they had a little bit of an agreement that when Jeremy says reality, like he's referring to the inertial frame or whatever, and him and Zanick were using that kind of baseline. So I'm saying, you know how we can use that type of baseline and just have this inertial frame or this larger perspective on things, you know, in front of us, and we can start sending photons around. It doesn't matter that we can put ourselves in the reference frame of that photon or things down on those levels. If we can see them all at once, we have an objective reality, even though the limit for them is the same. We don't need to have a different limit and all this, right? So it's just interesting to me that I can just conceptualize getting outside the universe or knowing the boundaries of the universe and pausing everything, or, you know, stepping everything and seeing the trajectories and velocities and vectors of every photon and every atomic particle in the universe. It just would be objectively true where they are and where they're going.
Did that tie back into the thing with the sand in front of you?
I'm just saying that you can have the universe. You can have the universe in front of you. You could have the sand in front of you. But it's like, why do you think that they have to go? You can have this speed limit law, this consistent speed limit, and still know everything.
Kind of, like, but it wouldn't really make sense. Like, you couldn't have, like, if you were in a spaceship, or like on an incredibly fast plane.
Hold up, you're breaking up. Hold up.
Or something, you have a way of light going.
Hold on. Oh, hold on. Is it me? You? Either way, let's reset. And I heard spaceship, and that's it.
I think it's probably me. Can you? Probably. Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like, so if you were in a spaceship or just a really fast plane, you're going half the speed of light. You shine a flashlight behind you, and it's going. And if you're measuring it inside that plane, it would be going 1.5 times the speed of light. If you were measuring it towards the front of the plane and you're in the back, it'd only be going half the speed of light. Like, that would demonstrate an absolute reference frame, but that's not what we see, and it implies that time changes as you go faster in reference to another reference frame.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you get to eliminate the possibility of a grander one. Like, do you not think that just because you see the effects of like the wavelength of the photon, this or that, you don't think that there's like causality, that those photons are in the exact 3D coordinate space that they're in at certain ticks of the time, even relevant to the other people? I understand that you want to say time, you know, there's this phenomenon where, you know, time moves differently, but really what you're saying is the internal components, the atoms are like vibrating at a different rate. So, you know, y'all jump past that fucking bullshit. Anyway, it's like, so what though? So what? Are you going to tell me yes or no, the photons are in the spaces that they're in or not? It's just that simple.
Yeah, they are in the spaces that they're in at the times that they're in.
Right. That's it. There you go. Absolute frame. Done.
Well, why would that demonstrate an absolute? Like, that's where I'm getting kind of lost. Like, because time is different for the person in that spaceship and the person on the ground. And I would need to see like some kind of.
Listen. How about if I meet you halfway? How about if I concede like to the effects you're saying? You can manifest variable frames, right? You can have variable frames,
Sure.
But you also can have an absolute grandest frame.
Yeah, I don't know what that means though.
Well, then you're an idiot. Sorry, just kidding. But it's very. I mean, it's very simple. I
My
mean, like,
feelings.
you can have
I'm a
listen,
beta. Come on.
You have the view of all of the universe at once. You can freeze frame it, zoom it. You don't have to wait for the information to get there, right? Just like if you were in a lab with a sandbox and a few photons, imagine the whole universe was your lab. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me try to rephrase it to make sure I do understand what you're saying. The way I'm kind of thinking of it is like there are those universe sandbox things that you can get, like essentially that there could be an absolute reference frame that is like that, where you can speed forward time, pick a particular point in time, move wherever without being restricted by the speed of light, something like that.
I'm pretty dumb, and it seems like a pretty simple concept to me. So yeah, like what you said.
Yeah, but then you're like kind of out. You're in a different form of time then, which we don't really have any evidence for.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, we do. We have evidence of 10 of dimensions possibly. So like, yeah. Come on, man. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, theoretically, possibly, right? You don't get to sit here and go, nope, guaranteed it can't be that. We can't have an absolute frame like guaranteed. Like, what?
No, I never said that.
No, people, I mean, they kind of do. They kind of be like, some people, mainstream people be like, no, because like, no, it can never actually be in reality because you'd be, like you said, you'd be outside time. This is like it's never going to be possible that all the information can, like, insta-port across the universe. Like, we're never going to find the wormholes. We're never going to do entangle magic, across everything or whatever happens. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm just open-minded to it. Like, absolute frame seems to be like a fucking kryptonite term to some mainstreamers. And it's like, bro, it's like easy peasy, like no big deal.
They're like, there is absolutely no absolutes. There cannot be an absolute frame.
I'm willing to consider anything with evidence, and I like the idea of like playing thought games about these kinds of things. But like until there is some kind of empirical evidence, it is just like, we're just playing games and thinking stuff, which I enjoy. But like, you're willing to grant are you a flat earther? I'm just kind of curious.
Why, are you prejudiced or something?
Super prejudiced. I'm gonna find out his real name now. No, I just find it strange. It's like it's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just very outlandish. Where generally in the flat Earth community, it's like it seems like there's a lot of resistance to accepting evidence, measurements. So it'd be kind of weird to like hang your hat on them.
No, not really. I mean, we accept the fact, like, if I throw a ball. No, we accept the fact, like, if I throw a ball to someone, the ball is going away from me, and then that person, it looks like the ball is coming towards them. That's not a problem for us. It's like a going and coming. Those are the two reference frames.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't really what I would be shocked if somebody didn't believe that. Like somebody throwing a ball on inside of a train, somebody on the side of the road would see it going in an arc where the guy in the train would just see it going up and down. That's kind of what you're getting at, right?
I mean, I was just saying you're having a catch with a baseball with your friend, and from your perspective, the ball looks like it's going away from you, and from his perspective, it looks like it's coming at him. Those are two reference frames.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't matter what anybody's camped with or anything, man. It's just these conceptual ideas. I'm just reporting to you, and I appreciate your testimony. I appreciate it was simple. At least you said, yeah, we'd have to be outside of a thing and it'd be, whatever supernatural type for now type of thing. But at least there was some agreement. Zanick does not.
Outside the box.
Zanick hates absolute reference frame.
I mean, I like the idea of having an evidence for a thing, but yeah, it's not impossible.
Like, these concepts are danced with, right? Of like Schrodinger's box or whatever, like with, yeah, the cat with the superposition or other concepts like only knowing partial information or whatever like this, and it's like if we can do like thought experiments and theories based on stuff like that, based on time freezing basically, or time, then I don't know, we should be able to use frames in the same way. We should be able to do it all. Like, just because we assume that information can't get across the universe, instantaneously. Right now, I don't think that always has to be the case, or it may not. I mean, I don't know. The more absolute frames, the better.
So do you
The
believe in space?
I don't know, dude. I'm open to all this shit, man. Like, I'm telling you how small the world is. It is so small, man. Like, it would be sick if it was like some concave Earth, where like think about whenever you kind of make a think about when you make a cage for animals and stuff, or wherever you kind of make something, you put the things inside of it. I mean, you do, and I know the universe could be more inside that, but like, just think about it. I mean, bro, like, I don't know, man. That'd be so cool.
I don't know, the planet's pretty massive, man. 69 miles for going over 1 degree. That's pretty massive.
Once you travel a lot, though,
I
dude.
struggle to,
Once you travel a lot,
do I?
no, well, maybe you do, but I don't know, man. Once you've traveled like for decades and shit, and you're just like, okay, like going across the U.S. is just this many days in a car, or 1 day in a plane. Like, it's nothing. And then the ISS, or these other orbital things, go around it in an hour and a half. Like, dude, it's nothing. There's like no, it's so small, dude.
Yeah, 69
It
degrees
used
or
to be a lot.
69 miles to 1 degree is small, dude. That means in 1 hour, you drive your car at 69 miles an hour, you got 1 degree. You just do that for 360 hours, and you did it, dude. That's
Which is
not
only
even
10 days.
Easy.
It's only
that's
10
10
days,
days.
though. It's 12 days or 15 days, whatever, however many days. It's like you're just like, okay, a week. I don't want everywhere there is to go in a week, or at least half the circumference. It's crazy. It's not
The
that
oceans are
big,
going to make
dude.
it a little hard.
Sure, but now you get a plane and you're going 5 times as fast, dude. It takes you 2 days. You see everywhere.
It used to take a lot longer, man. Imagine doing that shit on foot.
Yeah, what is
Pretty
that though?
awesome. We live in this time.
That doesn't make the argument good for it. It's like big. That makes it even more like it's small. Because like when you're on foot, yeah,
Can you imagine a building a mile tall?
I can imagine a mountain a mile tall.
Sure. Can you imagine a mile or a building 20 or sorry, a mountain 20 miles tall?
I think they got one of those on Mars, right? Mount Olympus or something.
I think it's only like 15 miles, if I recall correctly. It's pretty damn tall, though. It's massive. But I mean, the way I often think of Earth is it's a mountain that is 8,000 miles tall. Like it's like my mind, I can understand the number, but it's almost inconceivable to like actually imagine this thing in front of me, even though it's in front of me all the time. It's huge. You could walk around for a lifetime and not meet somebody that you're trying to look for.
I think most people would have like traveled by boat with a horse or something like that. When you get on a boat and you can just use the wind, you go pretty. You get places pretty quick.
Like transoceanic would take. I like the way we travel.
Well, like there's like currents, in the ocean too that add to that speed or take away.
Yeah, yeah. They have that sailing race around Antarctica, and I think it takes something like 2 months, like just to go. Well, I mean, they start in France, so they go quite a distance.
You ever
That's
see
quite
the
a long time
speed?
just to circle around.
You ever see the speed
It's
they claim those boats are doing, and then they do the same race in the north, and then you see the speed they claim those boats are doing?
Is it substantially faster? No, I haven't seen the particular. I think I have seen it for the southern ones. I didn't know they did one in the north.
You got homework.
Are they going substantially faster in the north or south?
Yeah, they go faster in the north for some reason.
How much faster?
I can't remember when I was looking up, but it was like 24 mile an hour in the north and like 5 mile an hour in the south.
What else? South. I thought I looked it up and it was like 12. I could be
Like I said, I can't
misremembering.
remember. Yeah, I can't remember either. But it was enough to make me go, that's weird. But I
You
mean,
guys ever
these
try to?
days with depth finders and stuff, you know, they read the bottom. They can give you SOG, like your speed over ground. So I don't know what they're getting, what measurement they're getting, or if they're keeping those on their boats, like fish finders. But that would be definitely helpful, I think, right?
I thought they used GPS for the most part, just because it's like way more reliable.
GPS is good for telling you your speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like my watch does it all the time. It's really quite accurate.
Yeah, but when you're in the water,
Mhm.
your like speed can be different. I guess you're saying it's just based on your position on the earth. Like what I was saying is like it literally reads the ground as you're driving over it. So it like,
Mhm.
and I'm pretty sure it uses some kind of GPS as well. But yeah, so if you're reading the ground and then you're measuring the ground as you go, that would give you your speed over the ground.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like to map the floor and be able to say, gone so far over this particular point. Yeah, I don't think that'd be like super reliable, just because waves are moving you up and down. So, but that wouldn't cause a huge delta in the measurement that you're getting, depending on the depth.
So like when you're
That's
driving in
interesting.
your
I've just
car,
never heard of that before.
when you're driving in your car with like Google Maps or something, the speed on the Google Maps you think is more accurate than the odometer?
No, I would disagree with that. The odometer, well, yeah, with my car, yeah, the odometer is more reliable. But you're talking about like margin of error, 2%, something like that, 4%
How
maybe.
could GPS not be more
They're
reliable?
always pretty close
I would think GPS would be
because
more
it'll give you
reliable.
within a couple of meters. No, it
It's
gives you
better
within
than
like
that. The
I
guy
think it's 10
that's
meter radius generally.
no, the guy that fixed GPS, he wrote a book called Escaping Einstein. He got it down to way closer.
It goes out a lot of decimal places. Yeah, it's way more than Loran.
You can get it way more accurate, but like the GPS units don't really care for having that kind of precision. It's unnecessary for what they're doing, right?
I don't know. I mean, if you don't have stock tires on the car, it's already wrecked. You know what I mean?
Well, if it's not a perfect circle, I think that some other stuff is not because of space time, right? I could be wrong, but let me. Like in between perigee and apogee, I don't know. I don't know if there's like the origin of this energy, if that comes in or where it comes from, Jeremy. But I feel what you're saying. If anything is not due to space time, the astronomer should pick it up. But now I need to get the Globers to confirm this about the circular orbit thing. I don't want to jump to conclusions. Let me look this up. Jeremy, you ready for this?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just asked, Google, the AI overview. No, not all orbits are weightless, and they are not necessarily perfect circles. While objects in orbit do experience weightlessness due to the constant free fall, they're still subject to gravity and follow specific orbital paths that aren't always circular, obviously. And then it goes on to talk about Kepler's first law. So shit like that should like create tides and shit. Like as the Earth orbits the sun, not perfectly circular. So I should do something. Also, we should be able to see the accelerometer on the ISS also.
Oh, dude, anything that moves because space-time's bending shouldn't be able to be picked up by an accelerometer.
But did you hear my response, Jeremy, about the non-circular having an extra stuff?
All I said was it's non-circular.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe I missed.
It also said that they don't always have weightlessness. It's because of the other gravitation. I think it's because of it's because of conflicting gravitational influences, something like that, Jeremy. When you have like a consistent gravitational influence, I think that's when you can get the stasis. So I think maybe saying anything due to space-time, I think that might be a little overgeneralizing, possibly.
I mean, I got a quote from PhD Parks, and that's just what GR says.
But let's not cherry pick.
Because there's no force there. There's not supposed to be a force there in GR.
I got you,
So if
and
it's
I know
moving
you want
to that's only reading that picks up the force of the acceleration.
I got you, and I know you want to use a hostile witness and shit. That's fair. But it's like they do say the stupid shit all the time. Like I don't know if he's overphrasing or whatever, but because, for instance, when you jump up and then as you reach the peak of your jump, as you slow down, right? That acceleration is changing, right? Before you get free fall, that acceleration is changing. Aren't you in free fall instantly when you jump, or just at the peak? See, I'm tripping now. But it's all due to the space-time stuff, Jeremy. Supposedly, all of it. Like even when you mix it with other shit, you still have space-time in there. But I like your Cavendish thing, and I bet they would say that it doesn't. Nah, they would tell you to Earth in the way. You'd have to get some like special accelerometer or something.
No, I got a PhD guy to go with this. Professor Parks heads know him, and he comes in here.
They won't.
If
They won't
anything
allow.
it's got to be in a vacuum. Cavendish in a vacuum.
There you go. There you go. Okay. I'm saying they won't. Yeah, they won't. They won't allow visual accelerometers. That's not allowed. Observational accelerometer that doesn't qualify as an instrument for some reason.
That would falsify. That would actually falsify GR if you did this Cavendish thing in a vacuum with the accelerometer on it. If it read an acceleration, that would debunk one of two things. You could actually keep GR, but you'd have to say the Cavendish balls are moving for some other reason. Or if you still want to say they're moving because of gravity or this mass attracting mass thing, then you got to get rid of GR. One or the
But
other
look,
would have to.
but they don't mean like let me clarify with you. Does he not mean in a vacuum, like out in space, void of other gravitational influence?
No, you do it right here on Earth, because it's moving because of space time. So if it's moving because of space time, there's no force to be measured. You shouldn't be able to measure a force, and that's what the accelerometer is doing.
I would imagine if we put our phones calibrated for rest here on Earth on the ground, but then we put it in a vacuum chamber, even if it was on some object and the object move, it seems like it would register. I don't know why I'm jumping to that conclusion, but what would make it stop? See, yeah. I think what would make it, would it be the baby constant velocity, Jeremy, that they would? So is this professor telling you that that phenomenon would not happen somehow? The one that sounds like me and you are assuming would happen? And if so, what does he say about it? Leave me hanging, Jeremy. I got done cooking this juice. Professor Parks, the bat signal is out. Come on back. I don't believe it. I gotta be missing something here.
Dude, it ain't about Parks, even though he agrees with me. That's just what GR says, dude. There shouldn't be a measurable force there because it's moving because space time is bending.
So what? It's not
So
what.
so if you put the accelerometer on there and you do measure a force, you got problems.
Yeah, but this because space time's bending general phrase is what's throwing me off here, man.
Yeah, that's why stuff moves. Everything's moving in their paradigm. Well, not everything, but the sky magic. Did you hear Zanick earlier? His whole sky works on magic.
Man, they know they on that bullshit.
Things bend in space time and it warps it, and it causes other things to move into it. I don't know what to tell you, dude. This whole thing's a thought experiment from Einstein. So
Dude, I don't know if
it's
this
actually
analogy, real quick, I don't know if this analogy will work, but I've been kind of trying to conjure it in my brain, and maybe I haven't fully thought it out, but like just kind of trying to say an analogy real quick. Like if you had like two people and they both have, well, no, let's say you have one person and he has a lot of anger, let's say. The thing that's happening is the anger. That would be like, the object is dropping in the analogy, or like something physically is moving or accelerating or something, I guess, in the analogy. So the thing is actually accelerating in reality, or, that is what it is. In the analogy, the guy has anger, basically, let's say the person has anger. Now, where is the anger coming from within the guy? Like you could speculate all day about where it's coming from. Is it because this, because that, because something, something he ate, something that happened to him as a child, something that from a past lifetime? I mean, you can go into a million things as to where the anger is coming from, but the net result is the anger. So I think maybe as far as this analogy would go, is it's like there's like different ways of describing where his anger is coming from, even though there could be an actual real truth where it's coming from, but maybe at the moment, let's say in the analogy, we don't know for sure or something. So, one person could say, well, I think the anger is this, and it's because there's a force. And the other guy could say, no, I think it's because the bending and warping of anger time or whatever. So it's like two ways of describing the end result.
But here's where they throw the loop, though, Gio. They'd be like, hey, there's that guy that looks angry, but we don't measure any angry there. That's where the bullshit starts coming in. You know what I mean?
Well, but then that means, does the measuring tool just overall measure anger? Like, does it measure acceleration? Because I would say accelerometers are not like ultimate acceleration measurers. They're basically like they have two little contacts in them. So it's just two little pieces of matter, basically. And then when it moves, they either touch or don't, they either touch or they don't touch. So it's like, if you were to drop it, those two things are going to both be dropping. So it's not going to measure anything. Does that mean the object's not accelerating? No, it just means that that device is not capable of picking up that acceleration because of the limitations of what it is, of what it can do.
But that's similar to the lateral movement or whatever Jeremy would be talking about, like this Cavendish in a vacuum. It's like I would imagine if you had two things, however they do their accelerometers with different, inertial baselines or whatever, and they get one to touch each other. I mean, I'm going to imagine that Cavendish in a vacuum is still going to make the accelerometer say the shit is fucking moving sideways. So how is this? Where is this rule coming from? Of if it's due to space time, I don't know. Jeremy's quoting the guy. I'm not saying Jeremy's missing anything or misrepresenting, but I'd love to hear the further explanation from this guy. So I guess I'll go look him up. It's pretty.
I mean, dude, I don't know if you're gonna find that in the internet. He sent it to me in the DMs, and I asked if I could use it as a citation. And I don't even know how to spell his screen name anymore because I tried to find this a month or two ago, and I couldn't even find it in my DM. So, I mean, if he
Right,
comes
but
in, he
he's
can tell you. But if I'll try to
talking
find
loose.
another, I'll find another citation. Now, hold on.
He's talking loose though. He knows it's like a free fall thing. I don't think he can claim this on this other. Going to destroy GR. I don't know.
What do you?
You
what
want
are you
you want the AI? You want the AI overview?
Yeah, you can summarize it to me if you have time.
Dude, I used ChatGPT for the first time, like the other day, to help me with like a script, like a code script I needed. Boy, that was pretty awesome, dude. I hooked it up. I got to give a little props now to ChatGPT. It accelerated what I wanted to do a lot quicker, and it like worked with me. I kept saying like, "Well, it's not working because of this," and it was like, "Oh, okay, let's fix it up." It took a few shots, but it finally got it. It was pretty impressive.
Don, I posted it in the thing. I don't know. It's a lot to read. It says no movement caused. I asked it, would it register on an accelerometer if it moves due to spacetime? It said no movement caused solely by spacetime distortions, like in black holes' event horizons, would not directly register on an accelerometer. Accelerometers measure acceleration, which is change in velocity. Spacetime distortions can cause objects to move, but the movement itself is not a direct change in velocity and therefore is not detectable by an accelerometer. Goes on to say here's why and stuff,
Oh,
but
why?
that's a good steelman of GR though. Things that move due to spacetime bending should not register on an accelerometer.
Right. They're saying due to the distortion, but did it say all? Like at the first part you said, I was like, oh, it seems like it's going to have a limited set, but then it seemed like it encompassed everything again. And like, just keep reading it more. We'll see what you can find out. I don't know, man. It seems
I already know what it says.
so dumb.
That's a good steelman. I got Professor Parks, the AI. It's just what GR. They have to have it like that. At GR is an ad hoc for
Oh,
Mickelson Morley, dude. Like
think about how
the
dumb
only
this is.
reason GR he had to come up with GR is like, holy shit, we didn't measure the orbit. They're like, yo, you do something. Somebody do something quick. In comes Einstein.
No, but this is where I feel like let's peel back, man, and see if people are being deceptive or honest, right? Because we know the weightlessness feeling, the floating feeling, the mixing of oil and water at free fall, right? The accelerometer not working during free fall, right? And then they want to say that this is the distortion of space time and all this. But what do we know about the accelerometers not working laterally and stuff like this? Like when for instance, if a black hole was to appear right above us and we got sucked up into the air, is the accelerometer not going to think we jumped up into the air? Is the black hole going to suck up the accelerometer pieces too and make them? Is that what they're saying basically happens? So basically, are they going to also say that during your Cavendish in a vacuum, Jeremy, that this accelerometer is going to read zero and therefore hold up GR basically?
Dude, if something, the reason why you got to do Cavendish in a vacuum is because other things are influencing its movement. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
There's air.
Yeah, absolutely. But there always
You
can
take the
be.
air out. There's no other influence of the movement. It's strictly due to space-time. That's why you're not going to read it.
Well, I bet that this guy will tell you that when you do the Cavendish in a vacuum, that the accelerometer will read zero.
I ran through this with Parks. Yeah, he thinks it'll read zero. I'm pretty sure he said. I ran through the whole thing with him. That's how I got him to say that. Yeah, I think he ended up agreeing with me at the end. As long as it's done in a vacuum, the accelerometer should not read anything. It shouldn't read an acceleration, even though it's going to go from zero. It's going to be still, and then it's going to start moving. He's saying it shouldn't read anything because that's
Yeah, that's
VR.
hilarious. And he's saying because the same reason, like the other ball will be pulling the accelerometer into the distortion or whatever terms we're pulling, mass, distortion, whatever. This is so funny, man. But really, I would love to see that. I would love to see that shit. I know they do. They spin liquids like in centrifuges and stuff, and they try to do stuff like. I know that they do stuff akin to this, but I would love to see it like Cavendish style.
You want to really get crazy, start getting into SR. That's when it gets nuts. Like real nuts. Planters, peanuts, nuts.
What's SR?
Chocolate coated.
Push the light, but don't push the light.
Special relativity. The whole bending of space time and the mass thing, that's all GR. Special relativity is where there is no bending of space time. Huge contradiction. Huge contradiction. It's limited to flat space time. Whereas GR space time's bending. So you couldn't, you know what I'm saying? GR and SR in the same area is not even, it's a contradiction. Can't be flat and curving at the same time. There's contradictions all over the place. Like you just gotta find them. They're slick with it. You know what I'm saying? They try to like, I don't know how they even pulled this shit off, but
Bro, that's because all the men went to war, and so they started writing comic books, and these little kids was reading comic books while their parents was off dying at wars, and their mothers were working the factories, and they grew up, and they was like, let's imagine some shit, and people was like, ooh, they so smart. It's like, nah, they just Star Trek the fuck out of you, created a whole language, and y'all bought it.
Yeah, we do buy the shit, and there is a repeating pattern of, oh, Jesus is good, he's the right thing, he got killed. Oh, Samwise is good, he saved everyone, he found the germs or how to cure the germ, but he was a fucking martyr and shit. Like they shit on this guy. Oh, fucking the new thing about what we were just talking about, relativity or whatever, right? It's like who are they kidding, Jeremy? Right? Like why when everybody is okay? Think about it like this. Okay, if why was when the first guy that said the world was round or whatever, he was right supposedly, but they shitted on him, right? They fucking wanted to kill him for it, right? Well, why if Einstein was so right and so radical, why they weren't killing Einstein? Why is it? You know what I'm saying? It's something not right about that pattern, right?
this was a more civilized era.
Okay,
Einstein was in.
fine. All right.
The other thing is because everyone had this dead set in their mind at that point that yes, we're on a globe, we're in space. They had distances to suns and stuff, so they more readily accepted this because it was an ad hoc. I told you this was an ad hoc. People think dark matters and dark energy is that's the ad hoc to the ad hoc. This whole shit is a trickle down ad hoc effect. Because ad hocs on ad hocs, dude. Michelson Morley came out. It's actually ingenious to even think of it. How to make this work? Like, how do you come up with we're going around the sun? Why didn't we measure it? You got to come up with something. In comes space time bending. Boom, you're good. People are like, oh, it saves the model. You know, there's some good math and stuff. The numbers all fit for the most part.
The funny thing is about the whole thing is there was a guy, and not only did he have theories about an electric universe, but he put together work that we still use to this day, and he was kind of ostracized. And then his opponents are the ones who are championed. Oddly enough, and Einstein. Speaking of that pattern, and of course, the comment about a more civilized era. So so if you say so.
Like, I don't know. I don't know why they haven't done Cavendish in a vacuum with an accelerometer on the moving balls. Like, that would be the next logical thing to do. Like, because you could falsify some thing here. You know what I'm saying? Something could get falsified. I was gonna try to get a hold of Blue Barble. I know he got a Cavendish. BioDuel did one. Like, yo, somebody throw the accelerometers on there. I think BioDuel even did his in a vacuum. I mean, that whole thing is the whole thing's fallacious in and of itself. It's called the fallacy of division. You got some lead balls to attract some other lead balls. All right, cool. You don't know if that's the thing that you were saying it is, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, lead attracts lead. Okay, you don't know if gas attracts gas, or if styrofoam attracts aluminum, or if silver. You know what I'm saying?
You know, the funniest thing is, for the longest time, science refused to be pinned down. They had a sliding scale that went to infinity. They refused to be pinned down. You couldn't pin down science because science would always just say, "Oh, we just haven't discovered the answer yet." So science has a sliding scale to infinity, so they can always move the goalposts. And then if you try to apply the same logic, they want to mock and ridicule through the authority that they've set up, just through the sheer number of people who refuse to look at that from a logical perspective, to see it for.
Thank you, Omnivore, Zanick, all the Glovers like getting wood. Appreciate you.
Hmm.
Way that spirit of the scientific method gets like completely like a contradiction when in the mainstream, where sometimes it's like, well, no, you can't question that. Oh, that's settled. So you keep testing, the idea. Eli, I was kind of just thinking about what you said. I was away from my mic, but I was like listening and thinking about it. Are you saying like the kind of dynamic of like are you saying something in the line of this where like this is all very generalized, but let's say the scientific method is, or the science claims is like, question everything and continue. I mean, they even claim like they never even get full proof, it's always just more and more. So there's this thing of like, the quest, and you continue and you keep testing, the idea of being open to things being wrong and then being able to obviously adjust and, to get, to do the scientific method. Are you kind of saying that in a way, that spirit of the scientific method gets like completely like a contradiction when in the mainstream, where sometimes it's like, well, no, you can't question that. Oh, that's settled science. Like that's settled. You can't question that. And then it turns into like the very thing that you're supposed to do originally, questioning and being open to all possibilities, all of a sudden it gets shut down once it's quote unquote settled, and then now it's like this scientism kind of idea where now it's allegedly settled, and now if you question it, you're going to be blackballed and ridiculed and suppressed. Is that kind of like in line with the way what you were saying?
That sounds exactly like what I was saying. Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to say that's pretty much it. Yeah, and the reason for that, is because they start off, they continue to build on a theory to shift from theories that are hundreds of years old, right? So every observation is looked at through that lens. They don't have, and they don't allow any type of. It doesn't matter, whether you're one of those people who's like, oh, everything's subjective, and we live in, a digital simulation. Like if you were to even say something like that in the mainstream, they'll accost you from your positions, right? You've got to stick with their narrative that is built on these priests hundreds of years old at this point. It's and if that's not the lens that you view your work through, then yeah, that's exactly what they do. They blackball you, they accost you, slander you, everything.
Yeah, because those things are all coercion. What you're mentioning there, yeah, those are coercion and ways to control people. Because if they were really confident in their method, they would be like, "Hey, this is scientific method. This is what the result is. This is how we know this and that." And if somebody came with something different, they would just be calm. There's a way you could be like, "Okay, well, that's not what these tests show, or that's not what this science shows." And then you could still put that forth. Like if somebody says, "Hey, water boils at 212," and someone else says, "No, it boils at 312." It's like, okay, somebody could just say it boils at 312. Let's say at the same altitude or whatever, same vessel and all that, same type of water. But I'm just saying, if somebody just said it just starts coming out and say, no, water boils at 312, instead of like blackballing or doing all kinds of coercion, moves, if they were confident, they could just say, well, no, we know, water boils at this because this is what the test show, or they could just show their results and then move forward. But that's the problem when you're not, well, then you get into the whole proving thing, but that's the issue, is that when they actually don't have, when they're doing pseudoscience, they don't have the way to say, hey, here's the science, validate it yourself. Therefore, to keep the thing opening for pseudoscience, it's like, we're just going to do this. We're going to assert it. We're the authority. And then now if you don't go with it, we're just going to blackball you. It's like two very different approaches. It's like, should science really have an authority, or is the authority built within it in terms of what it could show or reveal? Like the authority would be like, okay, this is measuring this or whatever it may be. Like that. That's kind of like I'm just sort of saying, like, the idea that the results of the actual test or experiment in physical reality should be what like the authority is. That should be what is driving it forward. But if that's been replaced, at least in some areas, with pseudoscience, then now they can't really just stand on that alone. Then they have to use all kinds of, who knows what other corruption and media and all kinds of other things to like propel something forward that is actually, potentially could be based in pseudoscience, but then.
I agree, Gio. And this goes into this aspect of peer review. So peers, sort of like in court, people were allowed to be tried by their peers, but in science, who are the peers? Who is actually going to be cross-referencing all the information and doing the tests on their own? And why is it even called that? Shouldn't it be people that are how about just have it reviewed, not just a peer review? I've never understood the concept of this, because a whole bunch of people might be like, oh yeah, hoorah kind of situation. Yeah, you figured something out. We agree with you. Because they wrote a scientific paper and it was peer reviewed, and they say, oh, that was correct. Therefore, it goes down as, well, somewhat of a fact at the time. I've always had an issue with the peer review process. And I think a lot of other people that are in the scientific and medical industries have also agreed with that. But some people are like, oh, no, the peer review, that's perfect. So it's a little bit of a conundrum.
Yeah, that would be key, because I mean, if you have a non-corrupt system like that, there could be I mean, you would probably agree, right? I mean, if it was not corrupt and you had, let's say, 50 of the best doctors in the world or the best scientists or best engineers or whatever it may be in the world that all agreed on something or that all showed their results, individually. I mean, that could be strong. Like, you'd probably agree with that in theory, that could be a strong thing. If there's people that are really, really expert and have done some really good work and they all have done so and they've all cross-validated and then cross-confirmed, I mean, there could be something good about that. But if it's corrupt, then that's all out the window. Like, you can get all kinds of bias and financial and all kinds of other influences involved to where it's just not legitimate at that point. And then it's a huge issue, and it could push agendas and be like a whole kind of media wing rather than something based on, distilling truth.
There's a huge thing
Yes.
over the financial aspect of it with peer review right now, because all the papers are the way their papers are financed and people are getting paid. I think there's like a court case going on, or it just happened or something. There's multiple problems with it. They're not even doing the tests. Most of these things are not even. They're just reading stuff. You know what I'm saying? There's just reading stuff, information, data. They're not actually doing anything for almost all of these things now.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you're bringing that up at the same time, because I have a friend who he has a master's degree in special education and sign language. So, and kudos to him. And his name is Dave, by the way. He lives in Boston, so not Dave Weiss, obviously. But I was talking to him about the scientific method and all that kind of stuff. He's like, well, I know how to read scientific articles and peer-reviewed articles and medical journals. I'm like, what, you think I can't read? Like, you can, all it takes is like eyes and a little bit of competence and how to look at words, and then, oh, you don't understand that? Look up what the word means. That's all it is. And that's what is going on in the scientific community a lot, like nowadays, is that someone does, let's say that me, Andrew, were to create some new type of invention or something, like, or a new theorem, and then from there, I write an article about it, and I show documents and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And then 500 people read that, and they're like, oh yeah, we approve of it. Like, like 90% of the people. And all of a sudden, it would be documented as being accurate, even though I may have just been wrong. And the 10 people that didn't say it was correct, maybe those are the ones that you should be looking at. Look at all aspects of it, not just the ones that agree with you simply because they're your peers. The reason I'm saying this is because I work in the scientific industry. I'm not going to call myself a scientist, even though anyone that practices science can call themselves that if they want to. I'm not going to. But when it comes to other people that are legitimate scientists, whether they're engineers, physicists, chemists, biologists, and the list goes on and on and on from there. What I think that they're getting into a little bit of some of them are getting into a little bit of a trap. Like, oh, it was peer reviewed, therefore I don't have to do anything because other people already did it for me. I think that is really, it's a lazy way to do something. That's all I have to say on it for now. It's just because this gets me a little agitated, so that's all.
No, I hear you. Just in addition, like with what you're saying, like I was just thinking in my own life, like have you ever wanted to know a truth and then been like, I know what I'll do. I'll go to the peer-reviewed papers and then just read those papers and then just conclude a truth based on that? Like, have you ever done that? I was just thinking, like, as like an epistemology, like it's just kind of an open question. I mean, I have my thoughts whether I have or haven't done that. Obviously, it's why I brought it up. So I thought about it in my mind, but it's like, how many people do that and to what degree, if you're just gonna, what I'm saying? Like, just be like, oh, I want to know something, peer-reviewed. I read a handful of papers and now I'm concluding that's the truth. Like getting to truth that way is what I'm saying. Like, does anyone actually do that?
I
think some people do.
It's been a long time. Years ago, I've read some stuff on psychology. That I can't say I was like, oh yeah, I agree with this, but I found interesting. Read some stuff on different physical phenomenon that was interesting. Stuff on biology. I can't ever say I absolutely agreed with everything, because I think you can tell when people inject themselves into anything. If you're reading, you can tell when people inject themselves into their work, even if they don't mean to.
Yeah, I mean, you could glean information, but I'm just saying, like, get to truth. Like, be like, okay, this did it. They peer reviewed it. every time we say peer review, I think peer reviewed of that Neil deGrasse Tyson where it says it's been peer reviewed, like the globe pear. But anyways, every time I say it in my mind, I'm just saying that. So, but anyway, in my mind, but no, I'm just saying like going to peer review and being like, okay, yep, this all did it for me. This is 100% the truth. Because on the other hand, like, yeah, you could like pick, glean certain information, or it could fuel you on, future research, or things like that. I mean, there's a lot one could be gleaned from. But I'm saying just go to it as a sole source and be like, yep, that's it. Now that's the truth based on just the peer review process.
Yeah, but nothing that is significant like in defining the reality we live in, but definitely like any kind of component of any significance, like a nuclear power plant, for example. There was a time when that was nothing more than an idea based on much smaller works, but they knew that based on their work, their peer-reviewed works, and their tests, they knew that if they did this, they could, produce power. And that's how they got funding. So, you derived a truth out of that, and that is that, you can boil water with, nuclear material, which is what we do with it. And then you could turn a steam turbine.
Yeah, that's a good point also. But you pronounced it correctly the first time. Sorry, you mispronounced it the second time. It's nuclear, not nuclear. That's what George Bush said on live stream.
I got a jaw in my
press
mouth,
conference.
and I'm Southern with a jaw in my mouth. What do you expect, bro?
Dude, that was kind of our generation, though. No, I know. In our generation, people always, nuclear. Yeah, people. It seemed like kind of a way that people say it instead of nuclear, because it's like the word clear. So it's like it's like you would just say clear, not cooler.
Right. I'm not trying to toss shit at anybody in regards to their pronunciations. It's just that I hear a lot of people mispronounce that word. Anyways, yeah, when it comes to things like nuclear energy, that is a real thing. I don't think nuclear bombs exist. If they do, prove me wrong. But the other thing is, during that peer review process of how that could possibly work, that's been done and it works. And there's no need for a peer review anymore. That's how power plants are currently operate. I used to work at a nuclear power plant. I had like a Homer Simpson job for a while, and there was no need for it. But yeah,
it's funny. I'm sorry. It's funny because everything in the electrical world that is hypothesized and then shown to work, peer reviewed, gets built, and then everything in the realm of the shit that we have contention with just stays on paper, doesn't it, Andrew?
Seems to be, because the electrical stuff can actually be tested. And I've tested a lot of things where people say, oh yeah, here you go, this works. And then I test it myself, and I'm not going to be writing a response to these science papers. I'm just like, okay, well, here you go, and try it out. It doesn't work for me. Therefore, I'm like, okay, well, it didn't work for me. Maybe I did it wrong. And in certain industries, it's very, like engineering, as an example, is one of the easiest ways to write a science journal and have people peer review it, because they can do it. Most people can do it. I mean, for simple things. However, when it comes to medical or psychological type of things, that's quite a bit different.
Yeah, I hear you.
Science, science is different, and there's a lot of different fields of science. But when it comes to engineering, mechanical, electrical, electronics, I'd be like, oh yeah, here's how this circuit board works, and then like peer review it, build it yourself. Here's a breadboard. Here's all the components. Like, oh yeah, that works, cool. And I've done that. I've built circuit boards, and it works. But when it comes to other, like archaeology and history, peer review kind of papers are not so easy to prove and have peer reviewed. That's why I'm not a real big fan of the peer review process, because it should be everybody, regardless of education or experience in that field.
There's something in like social sciences and like soft sciences, so they call it called the replication crisis, where like people believe all of this stuff that's never been replicated ever. So I definitely feel you on that. But as far as the hard sciences go, it seems to me like peer review would be a necessary thing, because if they asked me to peer review like something about physics, what the fuck do I know about that? Like I would have no input towards that, and my opinion wouldn't matter at all.
Yeah, no, it's a complicated topic. It would be interesting to like at some point pull apart the whole peer review system, like on some higher level, like have a whole group do that, I'm saying, or really figure out what's going on in there. I mean, I think if there's like going to be a huge paradigm shift, and then the shape of the Earth, if in terms of the next 1 to 2 decades, what's all going to unfold, it would be very likely that probably every area of life is going to be have to be readdressed and reconsidered. So yeah, when it comes to the peer review system, of course, that would be like right at the center of a lot of what's been going on with a lot of things. But yeah, it'd be interesting though to kind of pull that apart and actually see because there may be some legit parts and some non-legit. And then we're talking about in different areas too, because that's the thing, like there's different fields, I mean, psychology, medicine, physics, engineering, there's so many different categories, and they all may be different too. Like they may not all be exactly the same. Like there may be more deception in one field and less deception in another in terms of what's going on, and then more accuracy in one or less accuracy in another. And then the corruption may be kind of distributed in there as well. So
you got to take each thing. You got to take each thing for what it brings to the table. You know what I'm saying? If one is physics, for instance, should be rock solid because it's things we can physically do. But when you start making up stories about stuff, you know what I'm saying? Everything Andrew does is fine. He can validate probably everything until you start making up stories about an electron orbiting or something. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, okay, we'll hold the phone.
Yeah, that's why I've taken
like,
physics,
does it get
chemistry,
to a point
biology.
even in your field, Andrew? Does it get to a point even in your field where you're like, okay, you've crossed the line?
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
dude, also,
Yes. Go ahead. So I'll just say it real quick. I have to go on mute in just a moment here. But yes, when it crosses the line, that is when people are going to be talking about how in physics and electricity, how we can see an atom and we can't. And but here's these valence rings, or and these different things, and that's where you like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. Here it goes. That's peer reviewed to a certain point, but still you can't see an atom. It's all mathematical. It's not really. If you can't see it, then I have a hard time with it. Otherwise, you can just like Graham's number as an example. You can't see it, but it's a number that no one can even comprehend. But when it comes to if I'm going to build a circuit board, I don't care about the electrons. I'm caring about the basic Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's law, and Lenz's law type of formulas that are used in electrical and electronics circuits. That's what I care about. I mean, there's other ones as well, and those are provable. You can do it. But
Yeah,
other
that's
things
why you got to take each thing
are not provable.
Yeah, you got to take each thing as it comes. But there are some generically speaking, there are areas that are just more wishy-washy than others. Chemistry is pretty solid where, you could find some other things that are like, well, like astrophysics or astrobiology or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Pick anything to do with space.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, the thing I was gonna jump in, I was gonna say before, but was just and now I kind of have a little bit more formulated, but basically just that the pool of peers gets smaller and smaller within certain fields. The number of peers, basically, and then ones that even claim to have, let's say, certain equipment or certain things. So yeah, I was just gonna add that in from before. It's like peer reviewed. Okay, so you can have the idea that everybody can review something. Like there's even the idea of I was gonna say this too, like a blockchain. Like this could all be built in with blockchain technology, but like a good form of it, where it's actually like there's transparency and honesty and legitimacy within a blockchain, where you could have like a truth chain kind of thing, where you could have like some kind of massive blockchain that has like some kind of way to validate and verify information as well, and then everybody could submit their data basically, but it would be complex. But like you could have like where everybody, like peer review is everyone could submit to it, something to it, rather than I'm saying the opposite of that, and that could all be coming in the future. But I'm just saying the opposite of that is like a peer review system that has more and more financial exclusivity to it. Yeah, all these like exclusive. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, but that would be neat though. The thing you just said about having a blockchain and be like, oh, how many people verified this independently? You know what I'm saying? And if it's something like you can cause water to boil with heat, you get like 8 billion. It's been peer reviewed 8 billion times. Like it's probably pretty solid. You know what I'm saying? Where you might get other stuff that's been peer reviewed like 3 times or something. It's like we may want to investigate that a little bit more.
Yeah, and some of that already exists, of course, nowadays with like all the comments and people thumbs upping and stuff. So yeah, there's already like a bit of that happening in that way, but. Like that is kind of an open style where like, oh, anyone can thumbs up a video, and then however many like when you look at a comment section of a highly viewed video, the top comments are the ones that have the most thumbs up. So it's like, yeah, it's like a voting thing. But yeah, what you're talking about is on another level. Yeah, exactly. To be able to, well, yeah, you could have a way that everybody could, but there would have to be again some kind of system though to.
You could have YouTube. I'm thinking like NFTs, dude. You have like YouTube links and stuff attached to it somehow or something, like all the data, where all the data is, something. I don't know. a website, something.
Do you guys think that there's some topics that you're not qualified to have an opinion or to review a paper on, or you think all topics you're qualified to review and have an opinion on?
All topics. Everything.
Yeah, I agree.
So
If
like
an expert can't, if an expert
Nothing's
can't
off the table.
articulate,
Here's an example. Hold on.
I mean, dude, have you read some of the really complicated, like, medical biology stuff? Like, I mean, dude, you'd have to spend some serious time to even figure out what is even going on with that, dude. Like with all of the complex. I mean, I'm just saying, in a lot of factors, like you would have to, if you're going to take it on, you could take it on, but you would have to study to even know how to read the paper. Is that what kind of, Oscar? Do you mean qualified in that way, or do you mean like with credentials or whatever, like official credentials? Did you mean that?
Yeah, I mean qualified in that way, like in just simplistic terms, like if someone were to write a paper on chess theory, I would not be qualified to review a paper on chess theory. They would ask grandmasters to do that, not me, a guy rated 1,000.
Yeah, but the thing
Gotcha,
is, like,
gotcha.
you can just spot problems with things. Like, I don't have to ever have built a house, or let's say put drywall up. Let's say I never hung a piece of sheetrock in my life. I could go into a house and be like, yo, something's wrong with this sheetrock. You know what I'm saying?
Just to
Not
some
knowing
degree,
anything
yeah.
about how sheetrock works or how to put it up or any of that. You can just look at it and be like, yo, this is wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, to some degree, but then there could be like a reason for why they hung the sheetrock that way. That since you have no experience with it, you don't know why. Just like there could be a reason that like someone opens a game with e4 and you just don't think that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? So like if you don't have some sort of expertise on it, like at least in my opinion wouldn't be valid or really worthwhile.
What's up, dude? I'm talking about the sheetrock's all fucked. Let's say there's a light. The house is built and there's a light switch with a room with a light on it, and it doesn't turn anything on. Like I don't have to be an electrician or do what Andrew does to know that the light switch isn't. You know what I'm saying? It's not right.
Yeah, that could be true on some simplistic terms. That's why I asked if there's anything complicated enough that you would be unqualified for, like a paper about chemistry, like Gio said. Like if I read a paper about chemistry, I don't know anything about that at all, so my opinion on that paper wouldn't be worth anything.
Yeah, but if you start talking about it and I hear a problem with it, then I don't have to know anything about, anything else about it other than this one problem, just like the light switch.
Yeah, but what you guys were saying was, we could have, random Joe and 1,000 other people review papers, and that would somehow be good. And I would say 1,000 people who don't know anything about chemistry is significantly less valuable than 10 people who have dedicated their life to studying chemistry. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion.
No,
I thought
that's
we were
true.
talking about
I
actually
agree with-
doing. I thought we were talking about actually doing stuff.
Yeah,
I did
It's
too,
been
but
reviewed. Yeah, we checked it. It's good. You know what I'm saying? That's why
Well-
I said the boiling water thing. Like you'd have like 8 billion people. Like, yep, I checked this. It works. It's good. It all. You know what I'm saying?
I was just going to say, I've read a couple of papers. I read some papers on the central nervous system when I was looking into that cannabis effect on the central nervous system and alcohol and that kind of thing. And it is very complicated. I mean, you said chemistry. That's also. I needed a dictionary open on the next page. I mean, it gets really complicated. So it's all well and good saying, if I see a problem, well, you've got to be qualified to see a problem, haven't you?
Not
At least a little
necessarily.
yeah, dude. I mean, well, the guy.
Go ahead, Gio.
You would have to be qualified. Well, let me just real quick, like, I was gonna say that with Jeremy's thing, like, yeah, you'd have to have some like knowledge on the topic to even know. Like, in some cases, you're gonna have to know some knowledge to even be able to find a problem. You would have to know the details of where the issue is. Like if it's
Yeah,
something,
yeah. If these guys started talking about some complicated thing I've never heard of, I mean, that's how I started this whole thing. Like I talked it all out. So, you know what I'm saying? If somebody's talking about something and then I ask a question and I, try to figure it out, there could be a problem there without me like being an expert in the field on it or something, just from talking about it. I thought we were talking about actually doing stuff with the blockchain and shit.
actually submitting experiments and tests and observations and things.
Like
too,
physically
yeah.
doing something, not just reading a paper. Yeah, that doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah, I've had this vision that this is coming in the future for years. So, and that it's a positive way that blockchain can be used, because blockchain actually can be used with integrity and solidity, kind of like gears that fit together, where the gears actually fit together correctly, and there's not like maybe in the analogy, like corruption would be like missing gears, the gears are the wrong size or something like that. Whereas if it's legit, every gear is accurate and they all fit together. So I'm just saying, like, blockchains can be actually transparent and honest if they're built correctly. And of course, somebody always is going to have some access to the blockchain. So obviously that person needs to be trustworthy, so they don't do something crazy to it or whatever. So if you have that, and then you also have a legit system, it actually can function in a way that is legitimate when it comes to like the actual data. So, but then there would still need to be like, I wouldn't want to trust AI or anything for this. There would still have to be real humans though validating things, and that's where it gets more complex, because you would have to then have a system of of being able to, like what makes it onto the truth chain, all the way to the fine. I'm not really saying calling it that. I just kind of made that up on the fly. I've had some other name ideas in the past, but I'm just saying I just said that one on the fly. But it's kind of an interesting name. But
No, it's a dope. That's a dope name. Truth chain.
I think
We'll
there
roll
probably
that
already is
out.
something. There probably already is something called that. Yeah, there's a truth chain. What is this? A crypto? Yeah, there's a whole a coin called Truth. It's called Truth Chain. Yeah, I didn't even know there was a coin until I just looked it up. But yeah, there's a coin called that. Let's see. It's a crypto. It is what's the rank on this thing? Well, the market cap is $290,000, so it's it's tiny.
Yeah, it's not bad.
290,000. That's extremely small.
I mean, yeah, but still, though, it's not. It's something.
It's ranked. Oh, here's the ranking. Number 4,743.
Out of what though?
Well, that's every.
There's probably like 100,000.
There's what you're saying? Well, it depends on what you count. You're saying cryptos?
Yeah, it's probably like 100,000, bro. You could watch new ones being created, and they're being created by like minutes. Like me and Brandon and a couple of us, Chocolate and Miggy and them, we were just sitting there one night, and I was just buying like $5 worth of everything that like came up the second it came out, and it's just like every few minutes, like a new one comes out. That was like 5 years ago.
No, I hear you, but I think there's like around like 10,000 actual coins though.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, a lot of those like meme coin things are just like, yeah, that's on CoinGecko it says 17,000. Whereas
Yeah,
now we're kind of sidetracked on this, but yeah, how many actually exist?
What's another one? What's another exchange? Gecko's got 17,000. What's you got like CoinMarketCap? How many they got? Or Coinbase or whatever.
CoinMarketCap. Well, CoinMarketCap, if you go to their actual ranking page of ones that are actually ranked, and CoinMarketCap is probably they're kind of like the biggest of all.
They're top.
Yeah.
Top notch.
So if you go to their rank page, you go to the last page, it's 9,874. So there's 9,000. There's about 10,000 that are like, that are like even possibly traded anywhere basically, because this will give you all the exchanges that they're traded at. So yeah, that one's 10,000. CoinGecko, it says 17,000 up at the top.
But, it's easier to get on CoinGecko than it is like CoinMarketCap has higher restrictions on who they'll allow in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's probably true. So there's probably 10,000 that are CoinMarketCap. Probably, you're right, 17. But then actually on CoinMarketCap as well, though, up at the very upper left, and actually Andrew pointed this out one day, and we were like talking about it, and it's come back up again. But like in the upper left, it says cryptos 13.46 million. So that's probably the number of the total ones that are tracked, like in entirety, 13 million. 13.
Yeah, and this one's ranked. What'd you say? 2,000?
4,700. The Truth Chain one.
That's not bad. They're right up at the top.
It says, I went to their website. It says, welcome to Truth Chain, fighting misinformation with decentralized truth verification. That's what it says, dude. It says, our plan to fight misinformation, collect any data found online and put it onto blockchain. That way information is saved. So even if source is changed or deleted, there's still proof of it. Anyways, I'm just reading right from their website, but.
Noble.
Here, I'll post. I don't think I've ever seen, like the ticker is truth, I guess, just TRUT, truth. It must just, I don't think I've ever really seen it though. It's probably, well, if it's ranked 5,000, that's probably why. It's just not really in the mix unless you really know about it. Anyways, but what I was saying though about the actual blockchain thing is, I think, now I forget what I was even saying. I think my point is like, if there was an actual like, blockchain that had some way to verify truth and experiments and tests and all those things. I'm just saying that like, I know one idea is, just depend on AI to verify, but that's a huge problem. So like you then have to have humans that somehow are going through the information, or in some way, whether it's like community reviewed or there's experts that are reviewing it or something, because otherwise you could have, I mean, the blockchain itself can store the data and can allocate and can categorize and can keep things transparent and honest, but it's not going to validate whether the information is correct or not.
Here's how I envision it. All right. Just for simplicity's sake. Somebody says, oh, heat can boil hot water. They do the thing. Their evidence is in an NFT or in the chain or something, however you put the videos and all the evidence, right? And then someone else could be like, yo, I did it too, and it didn't work, or it did work. You know what I'm saying? And then you would either get, you'd get results. Right. It'd be like, 500 people did it and it worked. 2 people did it and it didn't work or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I kind of envision it happening.
I like that idea.
Someone would make a claim to have the experiment or the test or whatever the physical thing is, do it, record it, whatever their evidence is. And, we go from there. And then other people either, post their evidence of the physical demonstration of it I guess, not happening. I don't know. People get
Yeah,
their
like
experimental setups wrong sometimes, and they get something happening that they think shouldn't, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it happens.
Maybe there's some sort of way to double check the algorithm, the procedure. But on that topic, do you guys think some topics are so advanced that it can't be articulated in a simple way that even someone completely outside of the field could follow the logic?
Yeah, I did that with GR earlier. I'm not a GR expert. I barely know anything about it. You don't have to know a lot about something though to see there's a problem.
Or follow along? Yeah, I agree. Like even the case of a medical doctor, let's say they have all the technical jargon that people aren't familiar with. Once they break it down and maybe walk someone through the process, I think it could be understood. I don't think necessarily there are things that are so advanced that everyday citizens couldn't get the gist of it.
There's not much you can do from just reading though. Like, you know what I'm saying? If I do a thing and then I write about it, I mean, I guess you could do that and people could either agree or disagree or something, but that's us. Now it's just a consensus, appeal of consensus.
Yeah, I think that's why they go hand in hand for sure. Even Socrates talked about this.
If you have
how
this thing
work
where it's,
trap-
oh, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
If you have the thing where it's like, I did it, here's a video of me doing it, here's all the whole setup and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have that, now you got, and then someone else does it and they're like, yep, I did it too. It works. Here's my setup. You know what I'm saying? And then you get a whole bunch of people doing it like we were doing with the cold moonlight. Shit like that. You know what I'm saying? People tweak their experimental setups. That's dope. I love science. Let's go science.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you could have some really cool features in it as well, where like, let's say 5 different people all do moonlight tests during lunar eclipses, during quarter moon phase, half moon, full moon, etc., through the different phases at different parts of the night when the sun is at a different elevation angle, etc. Let's say they're all doing that. They're submitting their data. And let's say like 2 of them use a similar method. Like maybe 2 of them use like, water or something. They have like water that the thermometer is in or something, rather than the other guys had it in on a different material or something, or in a different material.
One guy uses a parabolic mirror to reflect the moonlight and a Fresnel lens, and one guy doesn't use the Fresnel lens. Yeah, dude. I love it.
Yeah, that could all be like categorized, and then
That's
that
crazy.
could be put into, and then those 2 out of the 5 that did it, like I was saying, those 2 who both used water or something like that, there would be like a unique way, and then that would be like a tag or like a resonance, and then that would be submitted, and then others could review that with their results as well. Like, okay, like you could come and be like, okay, here's 10 people that have done this before you. Here's what they did. Here's what they used, and then it could be like, what is your setup? And you could be like, well, my setup is this, and put yours in. Yeah, it'd be great,
dude. That's so friggin' awesome, bro. I know you have all the videos. Yeah, you'd have it linked or something, right? I'd imagine you'd want like video evidence of everything. But if you're doing this moonlight thing, you just record what you're doing. You record your setup. You make a little 5-10 minute YouTube clip or however long it takes. I don't care if you're doing Cavendish and it's a 30-hour video clip, whatever. Post it post it on the thing we have, and then people can watch it, see what you did, tweak it, do the same thing, whatever. It'd be awesome.
Hey, I wanted to say something real quick. A while back, there was a discussion about how AIs work and how they think. And I don't know if the thing that I put in there, if the link I put in there worked, but they're not programmed to behave in a certain way. I just put a link in chat just now, so if somebody's curious about how they think, this is like one of the most recent examinations.
All right, thanks. What was that related to? Could you fill us in on what that from a little bit ago? Thanks.
Yeah, because people, so they were saying that, talking about the whether or not your brain is deterministic. And
okay.
I was like, well, what do you think about AIs? And then somebody said, well, they're programmed to behave in a certain way. And I said, no, that's not really how they work.
This is misleading.
Could you describe what you think? What your thought is then?
Well, Tior, what's misleading?
So I'm just saying, if you're going to bring it up, do you want to give us like a minute or 2 rundown of how you think they do work, just so we can hear your side?
Yeah, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just thought out loud.
Okay. Well, so they create what's called a transformer, and it's basically a neural network that's created through training with billions of words, and it creates this. It's called a multidimensional vector space, where each word has certain characteristics along a given vector and certain weights along that vector. And what it does, this is an extremely complicated setup, but what the training does is it gives it the capability to respond to things in a mathematically correct answer. What it means by mathematically correct is the odds of getting output. So when you say, hello, artificial intelligence, how are you? The odds of getting a response, or the response will be mathematically similar in this vector space to what you would get on like Reddit if you posted that as a question. Or if you say, how do I set up my moonlight experiment? It will give you what you get like from its training base, which is a lot of it's Reddit, a lot of it's just the internet, but also scientific papers. But
I want to hear. Go ahead. Go ahead. If you want to finish, dude, I want to. If you even want to repeat that, because that was even. If you want, just again, just so we all understand exactly. But let me just say one thing, dude. I used let me just throw a little anecdote because I'm just kind of excited, just because it is what it is. I wanted to do some like macros, like key macros, and like certain like mouse click configurations and stuff. Like it was fairly simple, but it's for like a project I'm doing, and so I needed that. And it was fairly complex though. Like click here and then go there and then click there, like a whole thing. And but it had to keep returning the mouse back to the original position. Anyways, dude, it was like it's just for like auto hotkey, and it's like a code, like a script for auto hotkey. Anyways, I did it on ChatGPT, just .com, and I was just I told it what I wanted, and it got it wrong like 9 or 10 times in a row. It got it wrong. But then finally it got it right. And all I was doing was just being like, no, you still don't have it right. What it needs to do is this. And I'm just saying, dude, like what you're saying is interesting with the mathematical thing, because like it almost seems like if this is using some kind of mathematical thing, in my view, it starts to tap into like, basically the non-physical and the beyond. So to me, it's like that there could be, anyways, that's where the question of AI, could it do that? But that's a separate thing. Maybe we shouldn't go there. I'm just saying the mathematical nature of what you're saying, like it resonates because it seems like it was like pooling what I needed in a way that, anyways, but it was just, I was pretty impressed with it. It's the first time I've really used ChatGPT, and I was just kind of asking like in a really simple, dumb way, like, hey, I need to do this. And you know what I'm saying? It was pretty cool and pretty impressive.
So what they did was they took their AI, which is Claude, and they separated out some of the pieces of its neural network. So, and then because they're separated out and they put connecting ports between them, connecting APIs between them, they can trace how it thinks. So when they ask it to add numbers, right, it says, what is 36 plus 59? The first thing that it does is it starts with like, what's 30-ish plus like 60-ish? And then it slowly, quickly, but over several steps, sort of narrows it down until it gets, to what it thinks is the correct answer. So that's not exactly how humans would work.
No, I hear you, dude. It's interesting. Definitely seems to have a role to play. Well, there's a lot of directions this could go. So real quick though, what do you think? Okay, well, how does it link into blockchain in any way? Is maybe a side thing, but if you want to continue on what you were saying about how
I mean, right now I don't think there's a direct comparison to blockchain, because those are just two very different things. But it definitely, so blockchain is all about saving state, right? Like everything that you do on a blockchain changes the entirety of the blockchain using a one-way cryptographic algorithm, so that you can't roll it back. You can't just take things out of it and then or change data in it and have it not be apparent. If you change something on the blockchain, try to corrupt it, they'll figure that out.